Welcome to The Explainer. In these presentations, we try to take complex ideas and, well, break them down into something clear and engaging.
You know, when someone loses their faith, there are tons of books out there, right? A whole genre, really, all designed to help guide you back, to help you find whatever it is you think you lost.
And then, of course, you've got the other side of the coin. Books that say, hey, you don't need God. They offer a totally secular path, finding meaning in humanity or science or the natural world instead.
But the book we're diving into today, The Hymns of the Abyss, it does something completely different. It's not trying to get you back to faith, and it's not offering a replacement either. It's something else entirely. Let's get into it.
All right, so first things first, who is this even for? It's for a pretty specific audience. The author is really clear. This isn't for someone who just, casually drifted away from religion.
Nope. This book is speaking directly to the person for whom losing their belief wasn't just an intellectual exercise. It was a catastrophe, a complete, world-shattering collapse of everything they knew.
And here's the key difference, right? On one hand, you've got what the text calls the casual skeptic. They question things, maybe they leave their faith, and they sleep just fine at night. But the person this book is for them, it was like the entire ground just disappeared from under them, a total freefall.
Okay, so if it's not about fixing things, if it's not offering a way out, then what is it for? What's the point of a book like this?
The author is super explicit about this. They basically say, look, this book is not going to lead you back to God. It's not going to give you some shiny new secular philosophy to believe in. And, this is the big one, it's not going to resolve your crisis.
So what does it do? It gives permission. That's it. It's permission to just exist, to be in that messy, unresolved, painful place without the constant pressure to get over it or find an answer.
And this permission has a few different layers. First, permission to just be there, in that dark place. Second, permission to actually grieve what you've lost, because it's a real loss. Third, and this is interesting, permission to keep up with spiritual practices, even if you don't believe anymore. And finally, and maybe this is the most important, permission to not have to pretend you're getting better just to make everyone else feel comfortable.
Now, to really get what's going on here, we have to talk about the central metaphor, the landscape of this whole experience. The author calls it the void.
But the void isn't just nothing. It's more specific than that. Think of it as a report on what it feels like when that whole sacred dimension of your world just, poof, vanishes. It's not just emptiness. It's a very particular God-shaped emptiness.
And that leads to this really powerful idea. An absence has a shape. A hole has edges. So the void isn't just a big zero, it's a thing. It's something you can actually relate to, you can speak to. You can even, as the title suggests, sing hymns to.
So, what do you do with that? How does this translate into practice? What does a person do day to day when they're living in this void?
Which brings us to the obvious question, right? If you're totally convinced there's nobody on the other end of the line, why in the world would you pray?
And the answer the text gives is pretty fascinating. It starts with the body, the physical acts of devotion, kneeling, bowing your head, all of it. These are ancient gestures. Our bodies kind of know them, and doing them changes us, whether we believe in the theology behind them or not. The idea is that the practice itself actually creates something in the person doing it. The ritual isn't just an empty container for belief, it actively shapes the practitioner even if the thing they're praying to isn't there. So what that really means is that the act itself, the reaching out into the silence, is whole and complete on its own. It has its own integrity. It doesn't need an answer from the other side to be meaningful.
And all of this builds to a really powerful and frankly pretty unconventional takeaway. It's about how to actually live in this space, instead of constantly trying to escape it.
The text talks about finding a kind of dignity here, but it's a strange kind of dignity. It's not the dignity of finding an answer or getting your hope back. It's the dignity of someone who just keeps going, who keeps singing into the abyss even when they know the letter's just going to be returned to sender.
Now you got to realize how much this pushes back against our culture. We are so attached to the story of trauma and recovery, right? The idea that all suffering has to have a purpose, that every dark night has to lead to a sunrise.
And this might be the most radical part of the whole thing. The book says, hey, I don't require you to get better. It suggests that maybe some losses are just permanent. And that constant pressure we feel to recover the right way can actually be a kind of violence in itself. It just piles a sense of failure on top of all the pain.
Okay, so let's recap the big ideas here. We're talking about a loss of faith that feels like a catastrophe. But instead of a solution, this book offers permission. Permission to live in that void, that God-shaped hole. And it suggests you can keep up with practices like prayer, not for an answer, but because the practice itself matters. And in all of that, in just continuing without hope, there's a profound kind of dignity.
So, I want to leave you with this final thought, because it's a big one. Our whole culture pretty much sees darkness as a problem that needs to be solved, something to escape. But what if it's not? What if for some people it isn't a tunnel you have to get through, but a room you can actually furnish and live in? What if the real goal isn't to find the light, but to figure out how to live with dignity right here in the dark?